Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and welcome to my first 24-hour timer vlog challenge. That's a mouthful. Just saying that out loud is a mouthful. But anyway, I know 24-hour challenges are very popular here on BookTube. I love to watch them and I've always wanted to try one, but your girl's old. And on top of that, I have some issues with lack of sleep that actually like physically manifest, and they're not so good for me. Especially in the summer with the heat, it is like not a great idea for me to be 24 hours deep without sleep. Not great. I literally feel like I have the worst hangover on earth when I do things like that and like get sick. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so I'm gonna do a timer challenge, which essentially you just set a timer for 24 hours and try to see how many books I can read in that span of time. My goal is to do this from today, which is Tuesday, to the end of Thursday. So 3 days, so like 8 hours a piece. That's my goal. I might spill until Friday a little bit, depending, because I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. But the general idea is I'm gonna set a timer and I'm going to see how much I can read. And specifically, hold there. As you may have known, or haven't if you're new here, I wanted to participate in Kayla's Buzzword cover challenge. You can't see this, I've already X'd out books that I had to change on my TBR, but I was having a bit of a challenge earlier this year, and so am very behind. Very behind by, we're in June, so February, March, April, May, and June. And those are 2 separate challenges, so that's 10 books. I can double dip a little bit, but 10 books in general for the Buzzword challenge to be caught up for. So I thought perhaps I will use this 24-hour challenge to try my best to catch up with the Buzzword challenge, and then that way I only have to I can be caught up on the months and feel, I don't know, some sense of satisfaction. So I went through my books and tried to see what I have on my backlist, see what audiobooks I could pick up, and I have a list. So the first book on the TBR, I believe should count for both of these, is All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal and narrated by Eunice Wong. I think actually Kayla from Books and Lala, who is the creator of the Buzzword challenges, was reading this month, if I remember her book haul or another vlog that I recently watched. I do think her and her patrons were doing this book for something. So I think it's kind of interesting that I'm going to be reading it at the same time. But from what I understand, it is a post-apocalyptic novel where our main character is in the National History Museum in New York, and that has been where they've been stationed up and have like their community for this apocalypse, kind of a water world situation. And eventually the museum gets additionally flooded and they have to flee, and they're trying to preserve as much as they can, and then they find new groups to settle in with and kind of have like more of a conflict with what their purposes are and what the purposes of like what their goals are for society and what these other groups are doing. And so that's what I understand this to be. I have the audiobook for this one on Libro FM that I picked up, and I think this counts for Skyline. I mean, there is a deviation between the water and then the sky, and there's the buildings, so I feel like it's both Skyline and water words. I hope you can agree with me there. The next prompt for March, I also am doubling up, and it's also an audiobook that I have on Libro FM, and that is, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not doubling up for this one. So for March, we have, for the Buzzword book cover challenge, we have a book cover with books on it, And for that, I have a book that's been sitting on my shelf that I've been meaning to read, and that's Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, which is a prequel to Legends and Lattes. And I've been just meaning to read it for a long time, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, and it has plenty of books on it. So I want to read it. And we're gonna put that for the books. I don't know. But that is our first physical book of the challenge. And then for March Buzzword Challenge, we have Thing. And that is an audiobook as well that I have on Libro FM, which is this book, which is very interesting. I'm curious to see, because it seems like it's a nonfiction, but written in a story, like told as a story. And it's Every Living Thing, The Great and Deadly Race to Know All Life by Jason Roberts, and narrated by David David DeVries. And, sorry, my allergies are just kicking in, and so I can't breathe out my nose. So this book focuses on two men who are contemporaries of one another's, but apparently polar opposites, and they dedicated their lives to identifying and describing all life on Earth. We have Charles Linus, who is a Swedish doctor with a huckster's flair, and he believes in tidy, static categories. And then we have George Louis de Buffon, a polymath and keeper of French royals' gardens, who viewed life as a dynamic swirl of complexities. The author creates a narrative exploring their lives and what they contributed to science, and just kind of the idea of these adventurers back in the 18th century and that kind of thing, which was very popular going into the Amazon, and just, like how Charles Darwin was, looking at all these different species and trying to come up with explanations for them. So I'm interested to see how this is as a nonfiction, because it is based on a true story. I feel like this is it considered nonfiction? Fiction considered a biography, but it's like a narrative weaving the two in. So I'm curious to see how this is going to come together, but it does have Thing in it, which is a harder thing to find than you would think. Harder to find than you would think. So that's for March. That rambling is for March. For April, we have both the buzzword challenge, the cover challenge, and the buzzword challenge is just animals. So for that one, I'm getting another book off of my shelf that's been sitting here for a while. Also a shorter book, which has been a goal of this as well, to kind of give me momentum, is The Goodbye Cat by Hiro Awikawa and translated by Philippe Gabriel. And this is a Japanese story. I would say it's very akin to some of the other ones, where it's a little more episodic. Here we're following different cats and their effects on people's lives. I have a feeling some of these are going to be very sad, because I definitely know I read one of them was going to be an elderly cat, which is always tough for me, because I had an elderly cat before Pumps, and those twilight years are lovely, but they're also very sad. So I'm looking forward to reading this one, having actually read it and take it off of my TBR, but it fits both prompts. There's a kitty cat. We have cat in the words, so doubling it up there. For May, the buzzword cover is eyes, and I have another kind of novella that has been sitting on my shelf for a hot minute, and that is In the Shadow of the Fall by Toby Ogundiran, and Ogundiran by Toby Ogundiran. And if you can see, these lovely ladies do have eyes, and they are showing on the cover. So going to read this one. Like I mentioned, this is a novella. It is a fantasy novella, and it is about a Ashake. She's an acolyte in the temple of Ifa, and she is looking to become a priestess, and I guess there's these things called Orisha, which they serve and perhaps give them powers. And she's been waiting years and years and years as other acolytes get their Orisha, and she has not. So she attempts to summon and trap one, but instead experiences a vision so terrible it draws the attention of a powerful enemy sect and thrusts Ashake into the center of a centuries-old war that will shatter the very foundations of her world. So that is In the Shadow of the Fall. I'm excited to read this. Like I said, it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. And again, it's another short novella, so hopefully this will help me maintain speed. It's not speed. Momentum. Well, I guess, yeah. Keep my momentum up during this challenge. The other for May is the buzzword challenge is 2 or 2. And for that, I actually don't physically have the book. I ordered it. It should be coming in today or tomorrow. And that's Last Chance to Save the World by Beth Revis. And that is another short novella. And it is the third book in a trilogy. So I am excited to finish that trilogy because I've enjoyed both of the first 2 books. They're on my shelf and I don't feel like grabbing them, so here they are. I've read both of them, and so I'm excited to finish this series because I can add that to series finished. Then we finally make it to June in our last 2 books on our TBR. So I have a digital book here, and that's for June, which is Celestial, and I have chosen Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which is a Regency fantasy romance kind of situation with fairies. I read The Witch Would Not Hear earlier for Winterween, and this is a Victorian setting, and so this is a Regency setting. These books actually came first. There's 3 in this one, and then I believe The Witch Would Not will also follow 3 girls in this one as well. And so I'm looking forward to reading this one. It's been on my list. So I have been saving it for the Buzzword Challenge. So that is digital. I have that on my e-reader for June. And then the Buzzword Challenge, so anything to do with memory. And this is, I got the Memory Palace by Nate Demeo. So sorry. Apparently he is the creator of an award-winning podcast that talks about historical moments and things like that. And so this is a collection of short stories focused on historical tales that read like fiction. So we've got another nonfiction that is narratively designed to read like fiction, is what it seems like. And so these are just a bunch of little stories of history that perhaps we haven't heard of before, and I thought that sounded really interesting. So maybe after listening to this audiobook, perhaps I will pick up the podcast and see what it's all about. Apparently it's been going on for a long time. So that is the Memory Palace. It is the shortest of the audiobooks, I believe. So perhaps this is what I will start with, because I have trouble getting into audiobooks. I don't know what it is. I'm always like really hesitant to pick up an audiobook. Even though once I start, it's fine. But like, starting is the hard part, you know what I mean? But that is my TBR. And I feel like I've been rambling. And we haven't started the timer. I'm actually currently on sprints with Gavin, trying to start my computer up because I was on sprints on my phone. And I came upstairs because Pumpkin really wanted me to go upstairs. I was going to switch things up and film downstairs. But Pumpkin was like, no, come upstairs. And now she's sleeping. So I came up here for no freaking reason. But we're up here. I've got some things I need to get done. So we're going to pick an audiobook to start with. And I'm kind of thinking, because we don't have to go in order. So maybe I will start with the Memory Palace, because then I could like get a book done. since it is only 8 hours and 41 minutes on 1 time speed. So I feel like I could really breeze through this book. And it looks like every short story is narrated by somebody else, or they have a full cast that are doing different narrations. Very interesting. I'm curious to see. And of all the 3 that we just talked about, that one is pulling towards me the most, because I feel like it'll be short stories, easier to kind of keep track of. So I think we are going to start with The Memory Palace by Nate DiMeo. But first, let me get this computer started so we can get back on sprints with Gavin. And then I will get this timer started and we are going to jump right in.
아직도 난 격이 흐릿하게 더 의미하겠나 yeah. 아니 자주 난 어제 일처럼 선명하겠나 yeah. 너의 흔적 없지만 있는 것 같아 일상 속에 또 번져 그 색깔이 바래졌어 떠났지만 여전히 머물러 날 잡아주는 다가가도 멀게만 느껴져 I just wanna be with you right now 너의 기억 속에 남아서 I just wanna be remembered 너의 잔상 속에 살면서 oh yeah I just wanna be with you right now 너의 기억 속에 남아서 I just wanna be with you babe I just 남겨진 향기 가끔 내 방안을 채워도 여기저기에 숨어 있어 내 맘 곳곳에서 yeah. 너의 의자에 남아있는 온기를 이 잔들이 시간을 멈춰 떠났지만 여전히 머물러 잡아주는 너 다가가도 걔만 느껴져
Now you mention it, I kind of remember the tasteless cultures. So, what do I do?
Hello. It has been a long time since we checked in. I say a long time. It's been about 5 hours-ish, I think, since we checked in. I am like a little shy of 4 hours into the 24-hour timer. I just finished eating a late lunch because I had to. I had a little in and out. And now I'm at the Barnes & Noble because I have one book that I really want to get, The God and the Gwynson by Sophie Kim, that I want to read for Summerween because I read The God and the Gumio for Summerween last year, and since this sequel came out, I thought it would be good to go ahead and read it for Summerween and kind of keep the tradition alive. So I couldn't find it at my local bookstore, and I can't find it on Pango because it's pretty new, so I thought I'd go ahead and swing by here because the In-N-Out's not too far from our Barnes & Noble here, and yeah, I just finished my first book as well. So we did listen to The Memory Palace by Nate DiMeo. And I really like this. I really like this. I'm not quite sure on a rating yet, but I mean, It's definitely somewhere between a 4 or a 5. It really is just like a compilation of short historical narrative stories that were very interesting. I kind of want to own the book now because some of them I want to revisit. The audiobook was cool though. There was different people to read different stories, so kept it interesting and everything like that. But yeah, there was no like central theme of the story. It was just different stories about different people in history and how small moments or different things make a life. I feel like every time I'm here in this garage, there's somebody making a lot of noise. But yeah, it was a super cool book. Like I said, I've never listened to his podcast, but he did like at the end of the book, like his origin stories and just like how he came to this concept, and I just really enjoyed it. It was so many different people and stories I've heard and stories I've not heard before, and yeah, it was very cool. Like I felt like it didn't drag because, like I said, with different narrators as well, I could just kind of move from one story to the next, and it was definitely great for running errands. I just had my I've had my Samsung Galaxy. I don't have an iPhone. I had my Galaxy Bud in my ear. I was just kind of walking around stores while I was running errands. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm not sure. I will let you know probably by the end of this video what I really want to rate, what I really want to rate it. I feel like nonfictions are hard for me for rating them because I don't read a lot of nonfiction. So it's tough to give ratings. So I just don't have a lot to compare it to. But it was a super cool book. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I started off. Found the car that's making the noise. I'm glad I started off with this book. I feel like we got some momentum. We have a buzzword challenge book down here. I'm going to put it here in our graphic to mark it off that we have this down. And I'm looking forward to picking up our next book. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, but I will let you know as soon as I have. So let's go see if we can find this book. There's one other book that I really want to get, and the website said that it has both of these books, so fingers crossed.
Hello. It has been two days since I checked in. It is Thursday evening. I've been waiting for a while to check in with you because they do the lawns on Thursdays and it's always loud. So I figured I'd wait until they were done, and now it is thundering like crazy. We literally just had a thunder long and like shook the second story of this house, which was startling. I was startled. Yes, but I have decided now, since yesterday went a little awry for me, that I'm actually going to be extending this vlog, and I'm going to be posting this vlog, I believe, on Tuesday, which I think will work out because it'll be like the end of the month, and so this will be, you know, me trying to not only do the 24-hour challenge, but also catch up completely with the buzzwordathon. I keep saying, yeah, buzzwordathon? Buzzword readathon? Buzzword reading challenge? But trying to catch up with that by the end of June. So in July, I just have to read the July prompts. Just have to meet those prompts. So I figured, I'm looking for my calendar. I'm just having a hard time. Today has been a day. But we're working through it. Okay, so yeah, so June 1st is June 1st. So June 30th is Monday. So I think my goal will be to have completed and post this video by July 1st, which would be Tuesday. And then that will leave me with posting my first Summerween vlog on Saturday, which starts July 5th, and that'll be just my Summerween TBR video. Since the 4th is on a Friday, I figured I would just post that on Saturday instead of doing our typical Friday uploads. So, not going to be doing a video upload this week because we just gotta give ourselves a little grace here. But with that in mind, we have still done some reading. I just haven't checked in with you. And it hasn't been, we kind of lost momentum. Tuesday was a strong start. But Wednesday we lost a little momentum, but we did get some reading done. I am 67% of the way through half a soul. And I'm having a good time. Currently on our timer, we have 16 hours, 57 minutes, and 35 seconds. So we're like a little ways through. Not much, but a little ways through. So, well, you know, we're working on it. So, I'm 67% of the way through half a soul, and I'm enjoying it. I'm actually think I'm having a little more fun with it than I did with Witch Would Not. And I do think that's because it is pitched like as a Pride and Prejudice-esque kind of story. It is also in the Regency period, so it's got a lot of that. And I do really like our lead main character, I do really like Dora. And it's an interesting concept because she gets half her soul taken away by this fairy, and so she's lived a good portion of her life having like muted emotions. So it's interesting to see how that translates. And then her budding kind of relationship with the male main character Elias is just really cute. And I've really enjoyed it thus far. I'm curious to see how this next 30 some odd percent goes because we have a lot to tie up. And I'm pretty sure that I know what happens because I read The Witch Would Not. So if you've been thinking about The Witch Would Not, it may behoove you to read these Regency ones first if you don't want anything spoiled. I don't remember that much because it's been quite a few months since I read The Witch Would Not, but I think I know what is going on because there is like also a little mystery element that they're working on together. So I'm curious to see if that is what I think it is and if I will recognize any of the characters from The Witch Would Not. I do think Mrs. Jennings was mentioned at least. But yeah, that is pretty much my update for that. What else? I don't think I have anything else to say. It's been another 2 days since I've checked in with you, but do have some updates on this reading vlog, and I have a mini book haul for you, because I think you remember we went to Barnes on Tuesday of this week? Something like that. And I had a book from Pango come in and a book that I ordered online. So excited. Okay, first, let's give you a little update on where we are. So currently, as I said, it is Saturday, and we are at past the halfway mark of our 24 hours. We have 11 hours, 53 minutes, and 42 seconds left. And in that time, we've completed these 2 books, just as a reminder. And I'm currently reading 2 more. Already, I have deviated a little bit from the TBR, mainly because I wanted to read last night and did not want to read a physical book because I didn't want to have my little nightlight on and also like have the physical book. And so I was looking through some of the books that I downloaded on my e-reader, and I found one that would still work for 2 prompts. So 1 second, let me just grab this prompt list for a second, the TBR, hurry this up. Ooh. That could have been bad, but we're okay. We're okay. So currently I am reading 1 book that is on the TBR, or listening to 1 book that is on the TBR, and that is All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal. And that fulfills the Water Words February Buzzword Challenge. And I am about 37% of the way through this book. I don't know how I'm feeling about it. I kind of like it. It's kind of dull at some points. Like I mentioned, I know that Kayla from Books and Lala had mentioned that some of her Patreon members were doing this as a book club, or it was her Patreon book club or something along those lines. And a lot of people also had some feelings about it. It's not bad. It's just very, like, when I'm looking for like apocalyptic books, I really like a little more apocalypse in my apocalyptic books. This one's definitely a little more lit-ficky. We are also time jumping, so each chapter we have like present day, where Noni, who's our narrator, is telling us about them migrating away from Amen, is what they call the museum that they were staying in. Moving away from that as this big catastrophic storm came in and basically just took out the rest of the area that they were in. But we get that part, and then every other chapter will be a reflection on something in her life to add color to these characters that she's talking about, a lot of whom are no longer with them. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I think our narrator is like 13. She does appear to be neurodivergent from what she told us like a little bit earlier in the book. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I thought that she was gonna be older than 13, but I do believe she's like 13. And so it's interesting. Curious to see how things continue. We haven't made it to, I think, the settlement that they were kind of talking about in the synopsis. So I don't know, maybe things will change. I feel like it'll probably be sitting at like a 3 or 3.5 right now if it continues to go in the direction that it is. But I am listening. Now physically, on my e-reader digitally, I am reading, like I mentioned, a book that was not originally on the TBR, but would make for both of May's prompts, because May has, for the cover, eyes, and May also has 2 or 2, T-O-O. And I am currently reading Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Kwan. No, not Kwan. I think that's the last name of the Michelle Quanch. Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Quanch, which is a YA romance about a girl named, what is her name? Eliza? Yes. Yeah, okay. Our main character is Eliza. She is, as we start off, she's basically running unopposed for this chief editor position for her school newspaper. And this guy, Len, who has been very quiet and not very active in the paper, decides in the 12th hour to run and ends up winning. And she ends up writing a little, just like spills her guts on a Word doc, not intending for anybody to see it, but it accidentally gets published. And now she's kind of leading a feminist movement in her school, reluctantly, confusingly, and at the same time is getting closer to Len. And I guess there's some conflict of interest with that, since he represents the patriarchy, as she says in her little manifesto. It's fine. It's probably going to be a 3 stars. Like I said, I was just looking for something on my e-reader just to read at night, because I just didn't feel like picking up a physical book and having to use my little flashlights at the time. So it's fine. But it does complete 2 prompts. So it's also a very quick read, so that's helpful to keep that momentum going. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily not going to read other books that are on the TBR that were for the Buzzword readathon. I was just not in the mood at the time, too. 1, my books were upstairs, and 2, I didn't really feel like using a flashlight to read. I was lazy. That's all I got for you. Interesting reading some of the comments where people were like, this book is just barely scraping by the surface of feminism, and a lot of people have critiques about how feminism is reflected in this book and how the characters are talking about it. And I don't necessarily have as much of a problem with it. I was just reading the reviews and I was like, I totally understand where these people are coming from, because obviously this book does not have I wouldn't say a real nuanced conversation about feminism in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I do feel like the types of conversations that are being had for these people at the age that they were at, and kind of in this more isolated town, high school that they're in, these may be the first, it seems like in this situation, these are the first conversations they're really having about it and kind of trying to develop their own thoughts on it. And I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, obviously, I did not have as much access to the internet at the time, but I definitely do think I had a less nuanced understanding of it and what it meant and what I think about it now, and all of the intersectionality and everything that comes with it, and just how much more complicated everything is when it comes to having these conversations and advocating for different groups. So I see where they're coming from, but from a YA romance standpoint, I do think that the author is doing a bit of a satirical play on it and is aware that these characters aren't really being very nuanced and they're very archetypal in what they're doing with that. And so I think you could have an interesting conversation about these portrayals, because they are like that, and how I feel often still a way that we have a conversation about all of that on the internet. And so seeing it kind of play out with, kids who would be Gen Z in a situation where maybe they haven't had very many conversations about it in their community themselves, I could see this being fairly realistic of this kind of, a little hyperbole, but I feel I wouldn't have expected it to be super nuanced. I wasn't expecting a nuanced approach to this topic. and really diving deep. I don't really think that's what this book is about and what it's trying to do. I do think the author is kind of poking fun and is very aware that her characters are not quite grasping the complexities of the conversation and just kind of scraping the surface. But that's just my 2 cents. So I did think that was interesting. Sometimes I do like reading reviews as I'm reading a book just to think about what other people might have been thinking while they were reading the book and see if I agree with them or not. And yeah, in this case, I think it was purposeful. In my opinion, I think it's purposeful. But those are the 2 books that I'm currently reading for this challenge. Like I said, got a little less than 12 hours left, and I'm planning on posting this on the 30th. So yes, is this technically just a reading vlog where I'm timing myself? Sure. But look, I was not feeling great a good portion of this week, and I still think it's interesting to see how much I can get through in 24 hours, even if I'm not doing it like consecutively. So I think it's still a nice experiment, and again, I'm gonna get this challenge done. We've already accomplished 2. We're about to take out 2 more. I will be filming at some point in the next couple days my July TBR because Summerween is coming up, and so I'm gonna have my Summerween TBR and probably just do the buzzword books as well for that TBR and kind of leave it at that for July. But in preparation for that, I have some new books that I want to do, and that I have gotten. So I think I mentioned this. I was waiting on it. This is the 3rd book in a novella trilogy called Last Chance to Save the World by Beth Revis. This is going to pick up right where the last book left off, which I don't, which is How to Steal a Galaxy. So this is going to follow up with our 2 characters here and kind of close up their story of Ada and Ryan. So I'm excited to get to reading this in the very near future. I'll put this on my other TBR shelf. Next, I'm very excited. I got this book off Pango, and this is How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. And I had been interested in this book, and then I saw some people didn't like it, but then I saw that Kayla from Books and Lala really enjoyed it. And I love a good kind of Groundhog Day, trying to get out of a cycle sort of book, and that's what this one focuses on, where our main character is continuously dying in a Groundhog Day situation and trying to defeat the Dark Lord, so she decides to switch things up and become the Dark Lord herself. And I think that sounds like a ton of fun. So I decided to get it, especially because the 2nd book came out. I didn't realize it was going to be a series, so I thought I would go ahead and grab the 1st one on Pango. Got a really good deal on it, and it just came in yesterday, so I'm very excited about that. Next, this book I actually am planning, I think, for Summerween. They were having like the buy one, get one 50% off at Barnes, and there was a book that was on my list that I really wanted to get, and so I decided to pick this one up, and that is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, which I've seen quite a few people talk about, specifically Jan from Jan Agaton. She's talked about this book quite a few times, and I'm curious to read it. It is a precursor to Dracula, perhaps inspired Dracula, and is a sapphic, gothic vampire tale from a long time ago. And it's a nice short book, and I thought this was a really cool cover, so I decided to pick it up and give her a try for Summerween. So I don't know which prompt I'm going to read this for yet, but I will let you know. This book I don't know if I will read for Summerween just because it's long, but I have had it on my TBR or my wish list for a long time, and that is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. And from what I remember everyone saying, this has to do with one of those like a juvenile institution in the Jim Crow South. and it's the very real horror of a school they call the reformatory. And our main character, Robbie, can see haunts or ghosts, and when he ends up going to the reformatory, I think they start helping him uncover like some dark stuff that's going on there. So I'm very interested to pick it up. I know I've seen a ton of people talk about this book and really love this book. I think Gabby from Gabby Reads really loved it. I think that Kayla from Books with Lala really loved it. I think Gavin also read this and loved it. And so I've been very interested in reading it, and I know a lot of people said if you like Sinners to pick this book up too, and I did love Sinners, and so I've just been waiting for the opportunity to grab it, and now I have it. I think I've already talked about this book too, but I'm definitely going to be reading this for summer read, and that is The God and the Gilson, which is the second book in the Fate Thread series, the follow-up to The God and the Gumio. I read The God and the Gumio in Summerween last year, and so since the second book of the series came out, I thought it would be fun to read it for Summerween this year as well, so I went ahead and ordered it. And finally, our final book, which I'm super excited about, is a Jane Austen year, celebrating 250 years of Jane Austen, and this book was published by the Jane Austen house, where it's a house that Jane Austen and her family used to live in, and she wrote quite a bit in that house. And you can actually listen to the podcast, and it looks like the podcast follows along well with this book. So I want to actually, I think in July, re-listen to January, February, March, April, May, and June and follow along with the book to like have the visuals. They also have like recipes in here and just a lot of cool things about Jane Austen, her life, the time period that she lived in. I just was really excited by this book, and I'm excited to continue with it for the rest of the year of the 250th anniversary of Jane Austen's birth. So I was so excited to be able to pick up this book. It was very hard to find. I had to ask 2 people at Barnes & Noble because it was placed in a very strange place. But I have it, and I'm excited to read it. And maybe try to make one of these recipes at some point. They have an orange wine recipe, which apparently Jane really liked, that I want to try to make. And I'm very excited. I mean, so cool. So very cool. So I want to go through this book. I also want to this year read the Jane Austen A Brief Life as well, since again this is the 250th anniversary of her birth. And I don't know if I'm going to do a reread of any of the books. I've decided, I was thinking either of doing a reread of Persuasion, Northanger Abbey, or Pride and Prejudice, but I don't know. But that is my mini book haul. That is my mini book haul, and just kind of some random thoughts. I have some chores that I'd like to do, so I'm going to do that, probably listen to the audiobook, see if I can finish that up, whittle down this timer a little bit more, and I also need to charge this, and I've been blabbing for over 20 minutes now, so there is that. Hello. It is Sunday night. I had some volunteer service earlier today, so did no reading today. Did some reading last night before I went to bed. I'm 81% into, Lord Almighty, what is this book called again? Into Not Here to Be Liked. And yeah, I don't know. I still stick by my conversation earlier when it comes to the handling of the topic of feminism, especially for a bunch of high school students. However, I just don't know how I feel about the actual romance between these two characters. I don't think I'm all that interested in it. So I think like we're kind of petering away from a 3 and going down a little bit. So we've already had the lovely kind of like fallout from our characters. So see how they resolve things and how things kind of pan out. But I'm probably gonna finish that tonight. We currently have 7 hours, 48 minutes, and 37 seconds left on our 24-hour timer. And have quite a few books still to get through here in order to meet our deadline. So I think I'm gonna have to really get clever with doubling up on books if I want to make sure that I hit all of my buzzword challenge situations. Y'all, Not Here to Be Liked may be not my favorite book, but I just realized when I was looking at this picture, if we went to zoom in, editing Victoria, there are books on this cover. There are books on this cover. This book, 3 prompts, eyes, 2 or 2, and books on the cover. Hello. Pumpkin and I are cozying up in the chair right now. So we're just hanging out, having a nice little time. Isn't that right, pumpkins? Isn't that right? Yeah. But it is Monday, which means we are on the last day possible for me to aim to get this vlog out by tomorrow. And we still have 7 hours of reading, because I did finish Not Here to Be Liked last night. Ended up giving it 2.5 stars. Yeah, I think I kind of laid out. I don't have anything else to add from what I already talked about it with you all. But that means we have 1 audiobook left and 1 physical book to read, which hopefully will get us to the 24-hour mark and also have our prompts all set for the buzzword reading challenge. Now, I do contemplate whether or not using a book for 3 prompts works, since it's by month, but I feel like it's fine, right? I feel like for this catch up, it's fine, because I just don't see us getting to Bookshops and Bone Dust before the end of the day. It's already like 2:15 and I still have other things I have to do today besides reading. So within that 7-hour period, gotta figure it out. I'd also like to get this edited at some point today, or a good portion of it. And I don't know how anybody else listens to other things and edits. I can't do that. I've tried. Cannot do that. Cannot. If I were just doing like B-roll, that's fine. But if I have any talking going on, I cannot focus on doing those 2 things at the same time. I am not that skilled. I'm not. But I have a call at 3. So I think I'm going to try to get a little bit of reading in here before that call. And then, yeah, exactly, pumpkin. And then hopefully close this out quite swiftly today. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Oh, she's getting so cozy under the blanket. So nice. But that means I don't feel like doing the audiobook right now. We'll do that once I know for a fact that I don't need to do I need to do things. But
we'll go ahead and pick up The Goodbye Cat by Hiro Alikawa. This is only sleeve. I feel like I'll breeze through this. That's a little longer than I thought it was going to be. It's close to 300 pages. Huh. I thought it was shorter than that. But it is a small book. So it's like 300 pages, but it is a small book and the font's pretty big. So, again, I feel like this will be fine. So let's get to it. So, here we are.
생각해 시간은 흘러 이젠 여기까지 Feels better that we're on a separate ways Our memories faded Sometimes I think of you 너 없이 뭔가 좀 공허해 난 날이 무뎌지는 그 감각에 어느새 집중돼 Lost but prefer not to be found Thinking about the way we Just why Thinking about the way we Yeah 난 광진대교 건너면 살면서 든 생각 없어 맘에 드는 사람 넌 나만이 컸어 그냥 뒀어 외로운 그 맘에 불 붙여 지활과 탄에 붉고 서서히 태가네 다리 밑 주저앉아 순식간에 지나가 시간 그냥 what's up 후회할 순 없어 어지러워 외정 여러 마음들 흩어져 난 돌아가면서 기억이 하나 두 개 없어져 그래도 남아있을걸 너가 말들 난 안 잊을래 Pretend I'm fine alone but then that would just make me feel like I don't know thinking about the way we just why thinking about the way we yeah
These are like s'mores bars from Trader Joe's. They're interesting. I mean, I guess like if you don't feel like making s'mores, it's a pretty good option. It's got like brownie in the middle and then like a graham cracker crust and then the marshmallow cream on top. But I would say I would like a little more marshmallow. But we got a wrap. Because, as you've seen last night, we did finish the 24-hour timer challenge, but I did not finish my book with that timer challenge. However, I did finish The Goodbye Cat today. The book sleeve is upstairs, so it's like holding this book up. Can I hold it this way so you can see it? Helpful. I don't know. I did finish this today. I decided that I would go ahead and still complete it, even though technically we didn't read it in the 24-hour timer challenge. I don't know. This challenge has gone certain ways. It's gone ways, that's for sure. But yeah, so we did finish The Goodbye Cat. I give it 4 stars. It's very much like a Japanese style novel where we had like 7, I think, different stories in here and just coming from a different range of ages of cats, how the cats relate to the families, how the families relate to the cats. I did think it was sweet that 2 of the stories were kind of interconnected. I did like that. And yeah, it was a cute read. It was what I thought it was going to be. I had a good time. I did tear up on the first one because the very first story is about an elderly cat who's essentially, I think I mentioned this, but is essentially trying to become like a spirit cat so he can stay with his family, and ends up passing away. And I mean, obviously, this is not like a, I guess spoilers, but this is not a fantasy. So, you know, it's about it's a fantasy in the way that we're in the head of the cat, but like these cats aren't mythical or anything like that. So he lives a long and fruitful life, but it was just hard as someone who's also had an elderly cat pass away, and I did tear up a little bit on that. So we can add that. My mid-year freakout, I think I said I hadn't had a book made me cry. I had a feeling this book was going to make me tear up a little bit because I always just get sad thinking about Shugs and
you know, it just hits different. But yeah, it was cute. It was nice. I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was what I thought it was going to be. So I'm glad I finally read it. And then I also finished make sure I get this name right. Every Living Thing by Jason Roberts. Well, it's Every Little Thing, The Great and Deadly Race to Know All Life by Jason Roberts. I think when I pitched this to y'all, I had said that it seemed like it was going to be like narrative format, but a nonfiction. That wasn't quite what it was. I think I'm giving it a solid 3. Like, it was a lot about these 2 men who were like influential to the natural sciences and how we categorize animals and flora and just like biology and all of these different sciences that we are now very familiar with. They were like fathers in their own right of these sciences. So it like goes through both of their lives, and then also like people connected to them, people tangentially connected to them, people who had similar ideas, and kind of compares what impacts they've had. It was interesting at some points and a little boring at other points, so that's why I think I'm settling on a 3. I definitely would not have made it through this if it wasn't an audiobook. But I also feel like, you know, the author clearly has I wouldn't say like a bias, but like I agree with him because obviously, so Carl Linnaeus, he, and in addition to doing things like categorizing and having like a very stringent formula for how to categorize the world and its living beings, also contributed essentially to race theory and things like that later on, like his works did. And so, you know, it's like looking through that lens, you can definitely see the author is a little critical of people who tout his contributions but don't necessarily acknowledge how his work led to these things. And it seems like now more people in the scientific community are acknowledging that. And then Buffon, like Linnaeus just seemed kind of like a jerk, and I don't know if that's because the author also views him that way, but like I don't disagree with the author. I'm just saying if you're somebody who's listening to it, you might notice that the author seems to prefer Buffon over Linnaeus, and I mean I agree with him. And obviously now Buffon's theories, he kind of like was more well respected when he was alive, but then during the French Revolution was kind of like discarded, and then later, much later, has been identified as being, you know, a leader in a lot of the theories that we purport now for how all of these divergence of species and things like that have come to be. So it was interesting. Those are the last 2 books that we had to talk about. So let's talk about now what we actually accomplished here in our 24-hour timer challenge. How many books we actually read and where we're at with the buzzword reading challenge. So we read 6. 5.5. 5.5. So our first book, as you remember, was the audiobook The Memory Palace by Nate DeMeo, and I really enjoyed that one. I give it 5 stars. We ended a 5-star drought in this challenge, so there's a bonus there. And then we read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which is the first of her Regency fairy tales. I gave that one 4 stars, and I read that one digitally. And then listened to another audiobook, listened to All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal, and gave that 3.5 stars. And then our real star here of marking off on our buzzword reading challenges was Not Here to Be Liked. Oh, I guess I should say what these actually, you'll see. I'm doing it up here. It's fine. But yeah, the star of the show when it came to like making sure I met all my prompts, even though I was kind of lagging behind on them, was Not Here to Be Like by Michelle Quanch, which was 3 prompts in one with the covers and also the title, which is kind of crazy. So if you're looking for something to catch up, this could be a good one. Even though I only gave it 2.5 stars, still there. Then we have Every Living Thing, The Great, and we have Every Living Thing that we listened to. And that was the official last book that we finished in the 24-hour timer challenge. And then of course, our half. We'll count it, right? We'll count it. I think I only spent like an extra hour and a half. And that by timer was always the most accurate. Because, you know, there's sometimes that you like forget to turn it off. Or like, it's not close enough. But The Goodbye Cat by Hiro Aoikawa. So again, in total, we got 6 books down. And we are officially caught up on our buzzword reading challenges. Both the cover challenge and the buzzword challenge. So that is very exciting. I am happy to be able to wrap that up. Was this the most successful 24-hour reading challenge? Probably not. Did it take me more than a week? Yes, it did. Am I ashamed by that? Not a bit. Not a bit. I think that it was interesting to try and track my reading that way. So, I mean, obviously I'd like to do it like everyone else did, but like I said, it's just not really feasible for me right now. Physically, it's not really feasible. So I think this was a good experiment, and I am happy to be caught up with a challenge that I had put on my list for January that I did not think I was going to be able to complete. So I'm going to wrap this video up here because I do need to edit all of this so I can put this up on today. And also get ready for July, even though it's July 2nd. But I need to get my TBR in order for Summerween and also pick my 2 books for the buzzword reading challenges because we're caught up. We're caught up. So excited. So, with that in mind, thank you so much for watching. If you want to stick around for more bookish and nerdish content, feel free to subscribe. I usually upload on Fridays, but we switched things up just a little bit this week. But I will be uploading this Friday for Summerween. So feel free to let me know if you're getting ready for Summerween or what your June wrap-up is. I'd love to hear about it. And until next time, I hope you read a good book. I hope you find some joy, and most importantly, I hope you do something to make the world a better place. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!